Welcome to the Love Intervention. I'm Pastor Evans.
I'm Mrs. Evans.
And today we have an extra special couple of guests with us, the Tatums. And we're so happy to have them here with us. They have wonderful lives. They have a wonderful marriage. And you see their smiling faces right now. Watch. So we're going to let they both do a myriad of things, and we've known them for years. And this is our great privilege and pleasure to have them on with us so that you guys can get some good content. So we're going to let them introduce themselves. Hey, maybe Ron, you introduce Ronic, and Ronic, you introduce Ron. How about that?
Okay, so this is me introducing my wife. Her name is Ronic Tatum, and she is a woman of many talents. She is currently working as a nurse practitioner. She is a manager of a team at her job. And she manages several other nurse practitioners as well as other things around the job. She is one of the ones that has to do some of the racial talks that they have at work. Since we've been having these things during the racial outbreak, she's been one of the voices at her job to give the sensitivity training. So she's been doing that. She is also, I'm going to say this on camera, she is also a proud member of Delta Sigma Theta Incorporated. She is a part of the community relations group, which they just won an award recently. Social action. There we go. She is active in the church. I mean, you wanted me to introduce her. It's so much.
Right.
Look, y'all. It's so much. She don't want me to say no more, but I can go
All
on
right.
today.
All right. Well, we're going to give her a
That's awesome. That turned out better than I thought. Let's see. He put you on the spot now, Ronnie.
I know, a hard act to follow. This is my wonderful husband, my best bud. Ronald is his government name, but he goes by Ron. He's currently serving as an elder and youth pastor for our church, Inglewood Southside Christian Church. He also handles all of our media for our church, the technology, all of our recordings and videos and ads. He has a college bachelor's degree in graphic design, so that's his profession, his talent of drawing and creating things, super creative. He also has the gift of gab. He can talk, as you just witnessed. And and lastly, he loves food. I gain the weight and he eats. He loves donuts. He's a lover of donuts, and I'll leave it there.
Right.
That's fun.
All right. We have seen many of his posts. Of his posts.
Goes on his food adventures.
Right.
Yeah.
I can only dream to eat the donuts that he shows. Right.
Right.
All right. So we're going to jump into our icebreaker. And so our first question for tonight is, when starting a new relationship, what do you think people consider about their potential new partner and themselves? So what do you think they consider? Like, sometimes people are like, the attractiveness is very important to me. Their family relation is very important to me. So what do you think people consider about their potential new partner and themselves when starting a new relationship?
So yeah, of course, initially it has to be some sort of physical attraction, something that makes you interested, visual, that you see and intrigued. And so I think they consider, how someone looks, for sure. And then maybe after talking to that person and getting to know them, you do consider their family, their upbringing. how they were raised or their environment that they grew up in. I think it's something.
Mm-hmm.
Agreed.
Agreed.
Definitely something on the attractive side, and really that's going to vary from person to person. So what we may consider unattractive, the other person is like they're everything.
Right.
But it has to be that something in order for you to want to engage. And then you go into more psychological things, I think. Maybe depending on what you had in your life, it was in childhood trauma or things that you saw in your childhood that you want to model. Maybe you subconsciously are picking people that were like mom or dad or had that kind of thing that you're looking for. Maybe you didn't get that from mom or dad, but you think that this person could possibly give you that. These are some factors that play into going into a relationship first.
Right. Okay.
Yeah. Well,
sounds good.
When we're getting ready for, I don't know where you're gonna say this, woman. When we're getting ready for the show tonight, we read a few different articles about this. So one of the things that they said was like most of the time people look at what that other person can bring to you, but a lot of times we don't consider what we're bringing to the relationship. So if you're thinking about like, you know, what you bring to the relationship, how often do you think that other people think that what they're going to bring to a relationship?
Yeah, that's a good point. I don't really think people think that way, to be honest. Ron and I were just talking just about how, you know, selfish people can be. Think about self and always what can someone else do for me. So I think very rarely, unless there's somebody that's super confident and they know like, well, look what I'm bringing to the table. I'm this and that and that and the other. Maybe in that case, they think about what they're bringing to the table, but it's typically if the other person is lacking something, then they start to self-reflect and see, you know, look at all of this and this person doesn't have it. No.
I'm sorry. So that was our icebreaker question. That was some good information. And now we want to get into the topic for tonight, self-esteem in relationships. And my wife is going to give you a definition for self-esteem right now.
Okay, so what is the definition of self-esteem? So I went over to my trusty dictionary.com. Okay, and so self-esteem there is defined as a realistic respect for or favorable impression of oneself, self-respect, and sometimes, according to the articles we read, it's described as self-confidence. Self-esteem has been shown to relate to relationship satisfaction in both the short and long term. Essentially, what this means is that how we feel about ourselves impacts how we feel about our partner and our relationships. So the question is, how has self-esteem affected your relationships and or more specifically, your romantic relationships? And so that's our question.
So for me, I think just in general, your self-esteem it starts as a child. How you were brought up, how you were reared, what whoever raised you instilled in you, or vice versa didn't instill in you. You know, personally for me, my mother and my grandparents and my father, they all instilled in me a great confidence. You know, growing up in the in the 80s and going to school being of darker complexion and being, you know, teased when I was in elementary school, and, you know, looked down upon. When I went home, I didn't hear that. You know, my family is always, oh, you know, you're so beautiful, you know, you're a leader, you're not a follower. You know, I got good affirmations at home all the way up, you know, through to my life, which helped, I guess, you know, lay the foundation for my self-esteem. People all the time that, you know, I have a confidence about me. It's nothing that I consciously think about, but, you know, I think because the way I was raised, it helped in our relationship, because I can't even imagine had I not been raised that way. And being in a relationship, you know, it could have issues if your self-esteem is low or you look for it in other places. You know, as far as our marriage, you know, Ron lays it on heavy, like all the time. Like I have on a bonnet, and he's like, "Oh, hey," and I'm just like,
That's right.
"Bruh, I got a bonnet on."
Right.
But you know, he's like always like, you know, you're so beautiful and things. And so sometimes I'm like, yeah, okay, but it doesn't. Not that I have. It's like I heard it so much. Like I appreciate his affirmations, but I wouldn't necessarily say that if I don't get it, I'm gonna feel defeated, type of thing, or feel down. I appreciate it that we need to stop, but I'm just saying, like, he's not gonna stop anyway. And then vice versa, you know, for him. I think in your relationship, especially marriage, you have to understand your mate's love language.
Right. That's what I was about to ask.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. So, you know, his love language, you know, quality time, he likes touch and hugs. And so, you know, I have to be intentional about that, or allowing him to hug me and lay on me and, you know, rub my leg. I have to be intentional and allow that because that's what he needs.
Right.
You know, that's all a part of self-esteem. I think I'll let you talk. I don't want to take over the conversation.
All right. And so your love language isn't words of affirmation then, Ronnie?
No, my love language is, I'll let him tell, he should know.
Gifts.
Thank you. Gifts. So.
Hey! Yes!
But compliments are gifts. Compliments are gifts, right, Ron?
Don't do that.
I mean, like,
tangible.
Yeah, you know, like my case wallet, you know, things like that.
She loves
my flowers, when he brings me flowers, gifts, like that's my love language. And I think the affirmation, because I've been affirmed throughout my whole life. My parents, my mom, really made me who I am today, and really laid an amazing foundation to where I feel very confident in who I am.
Right. Hey, real quick, I just because I know you guys a little bit, and I've been around Ron a few times, and I know that that's just kind of his personality. Like he's an uplifting guy. Mm-hmm. Like the people he's around, he's always being helpful and encouraging. So, question, it's like a side question. You can answer it or not answer it, Ron. Is it tough for you knowing that she doesn't really need that, but that's kind of your person?
No, it's not tough because I'm gonna do it anyway.
Like I don't care what you want.
All right. Like, with my upbringing, what I realized very recently, actually, is that I was raised kind of as a golden child. There wasn't too many things, hard things that I had to do. There were rules, and I had to stick to the rules. But when I hear other kids talk about, well, I had to do dishes as a chore, I had to take trash out as a chore, I had to do this, I didn't have to do that. As long as I behaved and got good grades, those weren't things I had to worry about. But having a personality of wanting to help, I did a lot of those things anyway. And so growing up, my mom and my grandmother early on, and then once my mom married my stepdad, they just poured more into me to make me more confident. It didn't seem like there was anything that I could not do. Even when I was struggling in things like math, they made me believe, like, you can do this. I know it's inside of you. So coming into relationships, that's the kind of confidence I come in with. Like, there's not really anything I can't do, and I don't worry about it. Like, going back to our icebreaker question, when you think about, have you ever thought about what you bring to a relationship? That was early on never really something I thought about because I always felt I was good enough.
So you felt like you had all the things.
Yeah, not realizing like I didn't have it all, but I felt like
Right.
All right.
Right. And that's interesting. I'm sorry. Did you want to say something, Mike? I think it's interesting that both of you kind of were raised in a way that you came into your relationship, both of you pretty confident, and both of you pretty sure of yourself. That's not. I'm not saying that you're not normal, but from what we have read and some conversations we've had, that's not necessarily normal. Even in our own, in particular, our marriage, I wasn't the most confident guy in the world. I mean, I believe I can do the things I can do, right? But there were some areas that I needed to work on and work through, and still working through, that you know, may or may not cause issues. I don't want to say that on purpose while my wife is still right there.
Right.
So,
right.
So it's uncommon, and I think that's a blessing for you guys to both come with that type of confidence and that type of assurance of yourselves.
Right. I definitely wasn't. Well, see, it's kind of like a mix for me, because when I came into our marriage, I wasn't confident. I didn't really. I had really high self-esteem, but I wasn't confident in the idea of being able to maintain this thing called wifeism or wifeship or whatever you would call that.
Wifeism.
And so wifeism, right? So right. I like to make up words. So
right.
And so I was confident that I could pull a guy. I was confident I could keep him, but I wasn't necessarily confident that I could maintain this thing that was something that was foreign to me.
Relationships, status, cultural values, such as those placed upon how we look, along with how our body works, all underpin confidence. For example, a change in status can seriously affect self-esteem. For men, a crisis in confidence may be compounded by a reluctance to deal with emotional issues. Now, I know, Mr. Tatum, you said that you came into your relationship really, really confident and really sure of yourself. So I'm gonna ask you this question, just in case. What have you done to overcome any self-esteem issues that you may have had in your marriage?
What have I done to overcome any self-esteem issues?
Hold on. That question was for
That
Ron.
was for Ron. I hear Ron first.
Okay.
Yeah.
Just kidding.
Any self-esteem issues I might have had. As you see, I'm got super high self-esteem.
Right.
Right.
Anything I might have had, I usually have to go back and remind myself of who I am. Anything that comes up, it's like, who are you? And it really comes back, not to use a Sunday school answer, but that's the answer. You know, you're a child of God, and God has created you specifically with purpose, with meaning, for times such as this. And you just need to step into what He's called you to do. And when I take it back and really shift it off of myself, and I look at what God has to do, any issues kind of go away. So I'm following His plan. I'm a follower of rules. You give me rules, give me a set parameter, and I could work all within that because I know the boundaries. But getting back off of myself and put it in on God, what does God have for me? Where's His boundaries? If I could do that, then I know that I'm pleasing Him. And then, take it off of self. Because then now let me focus on my wife. Let me focus on what her needs are. How can I meet her needs? How can I do for her? Which is also stepping into what God created me to do as an encourager and as a helper. Takes that focus off of me, and those self-esteem problems are gone.
Right.
And so
ahead,
with that, what would you? Is that what you would advise someone else? Like, if you were trying to advise someone else, would those be the same things that you would say to them?
Honestly, I would have to know a little bit more about them, what makes them tick. But just speaking from a personal testimony, I would ask them to try it. You know, if you can refocus your attention from yourself, refocus to others, refocus to this relationship, to what you have been bringing in the past. If this is an ongoing thing, that has to be addressed. But if it's something that pops up here or there, go back to when you felt like you were really doing well, and then start from there. Remember that and move forward with that.
Yeah. So, and that's what I was going to ask too. That was a good question, wife. what would you say to, because you're a high self-esteem guy, and what would you say to, or what would we say to someone who is not necessarily a high self-esteem person, someone that struggles with things? So you would say, focus on your mate. Focus, if we're talking about married folks. If you're not talking about married folks, focus on the people that you're trying to, or you're attempting to love, and make sure that you're focusing that attention on them, and then realizing who you are, and look for the things that you have that are good about you and that are strong about you, and then do that, right?
Yeah.
So I know that for us in our marriage, I know that there are times that I'm not really good at the gift giving. I'm not really good at that type of thing, and I know that. And there are times when I feel like, man, my wife deserves better, and I feel like, you know, I'm hurt, not hurting. What's the word? Disappointing her in that way. So I know that there are times when I struggle in that area, and I try to be more conscious about what it is that she likes and what it is that she does. So that advice is good, I think. Focus on your mate, focus on what they need, and then remember who you are in Christ, so that you know that I can do it, even though there are times when you feel like, oh, I'm not doing my best in this area.
Right. Plus, you were blessed that my love language isn't gifts, right? So God blessed you with someone whose love language isn't good. Like it, Lord. Like it, Lord.
Right. Yeah, hers is acts of service, and I can serve. I know how to do that. So God helped me out.
Right. Wash them dishes.
And those are important things to know, especially about your mate, to know who your mate is, because there are times in that area where maybe I'm feeling like I'm not getting her the right gifts or enough gifts, but I know how she feels. Sometimes she knows, like, if I'm making an effort, she appreciates it. So even thinking that this little bit that I'm doing is not enough, she appreciates that because I'm trying.
Right. And then just to piggyback on that real quick, because I know there's going to be at least one or two other husbands watching this, and it's tough to understand the mindset of a husband until you become a husband. Like, you might think that you know what's going on, but just the feeling of disappointing your wife is heavy, I think. And then you can answer, Ron. But for me, I think the feeling of disappointing your wife in any way is heavy. But then disappointing her in a way that you know is how she accepts love is tough. And being able to overcome that, I think, is critical for marriages to maintain and stay strong. You think I'm right about that?
Facts.
Yeah.
Can that be a hit to your self-esteem or your self-confidence if you struggle with that?
That could. That could, especially if you get into the mindset of, I'm just disappointing her. That causes self-esteem to go down.
Yep, and it'll start affecting other things. All right. Thank you, sir, for being transparent. Your turn. Mrs. Tatum, here's your quote. Got a whole fresh quote for you. Wait 1 second. There we go. Here it is. It is said that for women, nothing interferes with the ability to have an authentic, reciprocal relationship like low self-esteem. Low self-esteem can make you test or sabotage relationships that have potential, or settle for relationships in which you're treated in a way that matches your beliefs about yourself. That's from Psychology Today. So first question is, do you think that is true?
Oh yeah, absolutely. It's absolutely true. You know, I've seen it time and time again. If you know, a female doesn't think highly of herself, she doesn't, you know, physically think she's attractive, you know, she attracts the wrong type of men who don't respect her, who also don't think she's attractive or uses her, and that's because her self-esteem is low. It causes her to make, you know, bad choices.
Right. And so the follow-up question to that is, what do you think would be helpful for women who struggle in this area?
What would be helpful for women who struggle in this area? therapy. You know, get a therapist.
Right.
Recognize your mess. Recognize that you have a problem. The first step is admitting that there's a problem. So once you can figure out that you have an issue, that you have low self-esteem, you know, talk to someone about it. The best person is, you know, a therapist to talk it out and talk through it. You know, therapy really helps. To have someone, a neutral party, you know, that doesn't know you personally, that hasn't been there along the way, but that can just sometimes be a listening ear or give you some tips, healthy tips on how to build that. Because I think at the end of the day, low self-esteem, it's a result of something else. You know, there's some childhood trauma, you know, that has taken place that causes you to have self-esteem, or maybe some trauma as an adult, that something that happened traumatically as an adult that affected your self-esteem. So that's why I say go to therapy, because the therapist can help you get to the root of the cause of that lack of self-esteem, and then work you through the process of recovering from that. And of course, you know, the Sunday school answer, if you are a believer and you know the Lord, and pray and for God's guidance. Yes, I believe all of that, but I also believe in therapy.
I totally agree with you. In my experience in our marriage, I definitely, like I said, I had high self-esteem, but I had low confidence, and it took about 5 years in our marriage until I started to believe in the person that God was creating me to be. That I came into the realization, and I at that point my self-esteem and my confidence just went a little higher than probably it should have gone. But as a result of your answers, I was wondering, what do you think about therapy or counseling in a marriage relationship when you don't feel like you're having problems? Do you think that couples should go for like checkups on a regular basis every 5 years? You're laughing.
She's trying to send me all the time to therapy. She keeps saying, you need help.
Oh, no.
I'm going to Pastor Perry, and I'm going to have him counsel you by yourself.
I apologize. I know this is a serious topic. I apologize for laughing, but yeah, that's the backstory to my laughter.
Oh, okay.
Right.
So, okay. So yes, to answer your question, yeah, and not per se therapy with a counselor, but like marriage conferences. You know, I like attending marriage conferences. You know, we don't necessarily have too many, you know, we don't really have too many serious issues. Thankfully, kind of grown up together over the years. We know each other really well. And so we went through the growing pains before we got married, I guess. And so, so I do believe, you know, going to some type of conference is always fun to renew, you know, your marriage, or look for different ways to solve conflict, because that's something, you know, him and I, we don't do conflict, so our arguments are really kind of weird, just like silent treatment, like, you know, just and type of thing. So yes, you know, if you, I don't think there's anything wrong with going to see your marriage counselor just for a check-in, maybe give some new tips on things. So yeah, of course, I think that's a great idea. I'm a firm believer. As Ron said earlier, I'm in healthcare, and so in my profession, we try to have end-of-life conversations before end-of-life happens.
Okay.
So before you get in a crisis, it's important to have the tools you need to have those conversations and be prepared to handle it. Because trying to have you know, an end of life, or we call them goals of care conversation, when your loved one is on life support and you're in that situation, it's difficult.
Right.
But had you started that conversation beforehand, before that happened, you can handle the situation differently. You've been prepared for it. So that's kind of how I would look at, going to a marriage counselor when you don't need one.
Right.
It should make it normal. It's a thing. We're just going. No, we don't. People ask us all the time when we're going to marriage conferences, oh, why y'all go to so many marriage conferences? Y'all have something wrong? No, nothing's wrong.
Mm-hmm.
You're just going to learn and get information so that when we do need it, or should we need it, or we're prepared on how to handle this.
Right. And sometimes when you wait until you feel like you need it, it's too late.
Exactly.
Right.
So it's been lovely having the Tatums with us this evening.
Mm-hmm.
You guys want to say anything before we leave?
Thanks for having us on. It's been a pleasure. It's always good chopping it up with you guys and just talking life. And hopefully, through what we're sharing here on the internet, somebody will be helped and be blessed by what they hear today.
Mm-hmm.
Amen. Thank you very much. Well, wife, that's it. That's all.
That's it. That's all. See you next time.